Okay, welcome to the next video for this lab. So in the previous video, we functionalized our distance calculation, right? If we were given 2 points A and B, well, we could send the information about those 2 points to this function and calculate distances, and it would tell us the distance between these 2 points. Okay. Now what we want to do in this video is we want to adjust our code so that we can calculate the distance between point A and multiple other points. So we might want to know the distance between Palmerston North to Sydney, Palmerston North to Auckland, Palmerston North to, well, I don't know, New York City. So we're going to adjust our code so that we can do that. All right, so the point here is that we want A to be a constant point. So let's just, for the sake of argument, say this is Palmerston North. However, we want B to be a series of other points around the globe. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make B lat and B long, B lat direction and B long direction. I'm going to make those now into a list of numbers or a list of directions rather than just single numbers and single directions. So well, let's do that. So let's look at the latitude 61, 10. So now I've got 2 latitude points here. Let's change the longitudinal points to, well, let's say, I don't know, 20, 17. So now I have a list of 2 longitudinal values for B. So I better also have directions that correspond to each of these latitudes. So this is 61 degrees north, and now this is 10 degrees south. Okay. Similarly, we better define our direction for these 2 longitudinal points. So let's go 20 degrees to the west and 17 degrees to the east. Okay. So now what we have is actually 3 points, right? We have point A, which we're keeping as a constant point, and we have 2 point B's. So we have this latitude 61 north, 10 south, and longitude 20 west and 17 east. So we have 2 points, 2 B points now, basically. So now what we want to do is we want to iterate over each of these points in B. But we want to make sure we write it in a way that we can add as many B points in here as we want. We could add 2, we could add 10, we could add 1,000. Okay. So the way I'm going to do this is a for loop, because when we're doing things a certain number of times, we use a for loop. Okay. The other thing I should note before we do that, though, is the 3 things that we get out of our distance calculation is delta, the distance in degrees, and the distance. If we're calculating the distance from point A to point B, these now are no longer going to be numbers. They're going to be well, a list of numbers, in fact. So in fact, there'll be 2 deltas and 2 degree distances and 2 distances, because we're going from point A to point B1 and point A to point B2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make delta an empty array or an empty list. I'm going to make distance an empty list and distance an empty list or an empty array. And I'm going to, as we did in earlier labs, I'm going to append the values that we get from our distance calculation into these 3 currently empty arrays. Okay, so for I, so I is going to be my variable that changes. So for I in the range 0, because remember in Python, position in an array starts from 0 to the length of B lat. Okay, so now I is going from 0 to 1 actually, because the length of BLAT is position 0, position 1. So I changes from 0 to 1. But of course I can add as many numbers in these for as many point B's as I want. So this could be 10 points, it could be 20. This single line of code is going to account for any change we make to it. We don't have to change anything else, only the point B. Okay. So what I need to do now is calculate the distance from point A to the first point in B, and then to the next point in B. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say, so I'm going to calculate the distances here. In fact, I might just copy this, in fact, and paste this in here. So I'm going to calculate the distance using this function that we created last time, but I can't call it delta anymore because I used delta over here, and similarly dig distance and distance. So delta 2, I'm just going to call it delta 2, dig distance 2, and distance 2. Okay, remember this calculate distance function has to have 8 inputs, so it has the A point, latitude, longitude, latitude direction, and longitude direction. So this doesn't actually change, right? The A is only 1 point. This doesn't actually change, so we can leave that as it is. However, the B, the inputs that correspond to point B, these are going to change whether we're looking at the first instance of B or the second. So what we have to do is we have to add these square brackets and inside put the value of the iterate at this time. So we're calling this III. So let me just copy and paste this in here. Just make this a little bit wider. Okay, so what this does is I goes from 0, corresponding to the first entry, and then through the additional entries of B. This command here, blat III, when III is 0, we take blat 0. When III is 1, we take blat 1. Similarly, when blong III, when III is 0, we take blong 0. And when III is 1, we take blong 1. So this will calculate the calculate the distance between A and the first part of B and then A and the second part of B. Okay, and then what I need to do is I need to append these values into our distance measures. So delta 2, dig distance dot append dig distance 2, and then distance dot append distance 2. Okay, and so actually that should be all we need to do. So what should happen now is instead of just calculating the distance between A and one other point, we should be calculating the distance between A and 2 other points. Okay, now we're just going to iterate through those points depending on the length of B. In other words, how many entries are in B. So let's save and run that and make sure it works. Okay, excellent. So you can see now over here, these angular distances, and angular distance in degrees, and the distance in kilometers all have 2 entries in their results now. So this is the distance between A and point B1, so the first entry in B. And then the 7,767 kilometer entry is the distance between point A and the second entry in BLAT. Okay, and of course now we can add as many points as we like. So what I'm going to do is just add maybe 2 more. I'm just totally making up these numbers, so please forgive me if I'm making up silly numbers. Oh, let's go 89. I like 89. I don't know why. Okay, so associated with these 2 new latitudes, we need to make sure we have 2 new directions as well. I'm just going to make them both north because why not? And associated with associated with these two new longitudes now, I need two new longitude directions. So I'll make one west and I'll make one east. And believe it or not, that is all we need to change to add the 2 extra points to calculate the distance between A and the 2 extra points, as well as the distance between A and the 2 original points. So we'll just press go. And now you can see that, yeah, indeed we do have 4 entries in here. So distance in kilometers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we've done is, since we functionalized our code in the last video, we've actually now able to calculate the distance between a point A to multiple points on the globe. Okay, so this could be really useful if you were trying to make a neat sign which says Palmerston North, distance to London, distance to Paris, distance to New York. So maybe you might like to look up some latitudes and longitudes of different cities around the world and calculate the distance between Palmerston North and those cities. Let me know how you get on. Thank you.